thank you everyone for joining us today. Super excited to have you here. Excited about tonight's panel, especially because I just came back. Actually, that's how I met Matt. So I just came back from the Coinsbank blockchain crypto cruise. That was quite an experience, to say the least, especially as a woman. But in any case, as a result, you know, to be honest, I also had a couple existential crises. Was like, do I really want to be in the blockchain crypto world? But I love technology. I'm a sucker for technology and innovation, so here I am. But in any case, today I wanted to talk about how the crypto space is maturing, and most importantly, the fact that we love bickering at one another. So before we even get started, I kind of want to do a quick poll. Who is actively in the blockchain or working the blockchain space in the audience? Like, if you could raise your hand. Okay. Would you say, so I'm also interested in knowing whether or not you find yourself arguing with your peers, with your family, about the use case of cryptocurrency and blockchain. Can you relate? Yes. Do you also find yourself arguing about particular coins you're very, I guess, excited about? Yes. And finally, raise your hand if you feel like you found a new love for trading, which you maybe might not have had in the future, in the past. Great. So, welcome, you've joined the dark side of crypto, or blockchain. So, all jokes aside, really, like I mentioned earlier, there's a couple things that, as a community, we're sort of faced with. First of all, scalability, regulation, security. So obviously this is only an hour discussion, and I want to make sure that you guys get to network as well. And there's only so much we can talk about. But I want to introduce you to our panelists. So Matt, Aaron, I guess introduce yourself, it'll be easier.
Hey guys, buenas noches. Are we going to do this in English, right?
Yes.
Okay. Hey guys, my name is Matt Aaron. I run the podcast network for Bitcoin.com, as well as Latin America and Spain, and the site in Spanish, es.bitcoin.com. I got into Bitcoin a little bit over a year ago. My background is in organic agriculture. We had a bad crop. I had plenty of time. I took a free course at Stanford on cryptography, then just got hooked on Bitcoin and was spending, 6 to 10 hours a day reading, talking, and then I started podcasting, and then I got in touch with Bitcoin.com. I'm super excited about this space, and really happy to be here tonight with Luna and the rest of you.
Okay, hi guys, I am Aleix. I am the co-founder of Blockchain Institute and Technology. I don't know so much, I love Bitcoin, but I knew blockchain like 5 years ago. My background is more technical and business, so I can answer technical questions and business questions. And thanks for inviting me, Luna, and thanks for attending.
All right, and really quickly, I also want to give a special thanks to our sponsors. So I have to give the plug. So essentially, LATOKEN is an exchange focused on liquidity for new tokens and asset classes. One of the things that they're actually doing right now is that, I think it's actually a really great marketing strategy, is that they're going to different meetups. So they chose me for Barcelona, and they're going to different meetups all around the world. And so essentially like helping out with organizing and in exchange. Just have to plug them. In any case, so they're giving free coins. It's just another exchange platform. And if you're interested in learning more about it, go to their website and add them on the Telegram channel. And also Elementus. So the speaker, she's on her way. She literally just flew from a conference in London, so she should be here shortly. But I don't know if you guys know Elementus. They essentially have a really, they have an infographic which went viral, essentially, and so we're going to talk about that as well. But they republished like a revised version this week, which essentially shows that the ICO appetite is still pretty high. and as high as the bull run. So really interesting infographic, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. So thank you to our sponsors. Oh, here. All right, so the first question I want to ask, actually, obviously, is a more technical question for you, Alex. Talking about, and also there's a really interesting quote that I saw. Let me see if I find it. So we know essentially like the interest and appetite is there for blockchain. But the technology, is it really up to par? Obviously we're facing like some scaling issue with Ethereum. And you also mentioned the fact that you still think, essentially you think that we're still in the beginning stage. And that, oh yes, so essentially like we're still in the prototyping stage and we'll reach the point of maturity by 2025. So can you talk a little bit more about the following?
Okay, so what is happening right now in the market is there is a lot of hype. Every company, every startup wants to implement blockchain to his service to promote his company. So the big problem right now with blockchain technical is scalability. Right now we don't have so much development. There is no enough development. We have Ethereum trying to implement sharding or Casper to solve this issue. But imagine that you have a project, okay? You are going to sell your project, you have your technical project, and you develop an app. But that app, you want to improve it. So in 6 months, you go and you want to improve it. What happens that in blockchain, normally with Solidity and all the environments in Ethereum, Bitcoin, it has changed so much. Your version from version 1 to 2, it completely changed. So the problem is, if I develop something right now in blockchain, and in 1 year I want to update it, it's probably you have to redo all the code. So right now, the big problem is that we are in development. There is a lot of development need to be done. And that's the primary question. Blockchain started in 2009. Projects like this, the problem with the internet is like we all know blockchain. We know that tokenization, you can tokenize every active. But the problem is internet can go this in development go very faster, but there is also a lot of hype. With internet, everyone wants to do a blockchain, everyone wants to make his project with blockchain, but we are not ready yet there.
Matt, do you want to add to that, or?
No, I think that was a good answer.
Okay, so essentially that's one of the big issues that we're faced with. And I also want to talk about the lack of transparency, but our speaker from Element just is not here yet. So essentially, I also want to talk about the fact that, okay, so like I mentioned, Matt and I just came back from the Coinsbank blockchain cruise, and I'm sure that if you heard about the very hyped debate between Roger Ver and Jimmy Song, yeah. And essentially, and also in the boat, you could feel like there was quite a bit of tension between sort of like the Bitcoin Cash camp, the Bitcoin camp, the Litecoin camp, et cetera, et cetera. So I think as a community, if we want to try to have better mass adoption, we have to sort of have a better united front. And right now, it's almost like we're each having like individual battles. So I'd love to hear your point of view because you're pretty involved with Bitcoin.com and sort of how you think we can evolve as a community.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's important to understand the underlying goals and ideals, because you have the Bitcoin side, which it ranges from people, maybe the libertarians to the crypto anarchists that don't think government should exist at all, right? And I think the most famous dApp built on Ethereum is Aragon. How many people here are familiar with Aragon? Okay, a couple. So Aragon arguably has the best Spanish developers in the world, and if you talk to them, they'll say, we want to replace government. That's just the mindset they're coming from. So the reason I mentioned that is to point out that there's a lot of different goals. So when it comes to unity, I think that when it's Bitcoin Core, Bitcoin Cash, I think it's time to stop debating. And people have different, Bitcoin Core is more towards the store of value. Bitcoin Cash is let's use it as cash, and just kind of let the free markets decide. And obviously, like there's dApps on top of Ethereum, Ripple, which is more for the banks. So in terms of unity, I think people should be civil with each other. But there are so I guess I disagree on the unity part. I think people should be civil, stop arguing, and just build the products.
And so, what do you think? And either one of you can answer that, what do you think we can do to sort of help have more developers and essentially like help also like have better blockchain case studies, use case, sorry.
Well, Alex mentioned how early it is, right? It's very early, and just take a step back. In 2009, blockchain was not mentioned in the Satoshi white paper. So blockchain, what are other buzzwords? Machine learning, AI. It's thrown around a lot, and I think the reality is there's not, compared to the amount of ICOs are out there, there's very few actual use cases. On the bright side, just like we didn't know what was going to happen with the internet, Ethereum and Bitcoin protocols, just like HTTP, HTTPS. There's probably so many things that we haven't thought of today that blockchain could be a great use for. Yeah.
Yeah, what I was going to add is there need to be a little bit more of transparency, and if someone wants to develop something, we need to put it easier to that developer, because right now if you want to learn a blockchain, that's why we funded blockchain hidden technology, there is not so much information how to learn to develop and contribute to one of the blockchains that are currently in the market.
And shameless plug, for learning how to develop on top of the Bitcoin Cash blockchain, go to developer.bitcoin.com. I will say there's a lot of developer conferences as well.
Yeah, there is a lot of developer conference, but there is no a basic, basic guide to zero to expert. There is no, you can find a lot of guys how to develop in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash and Ethereum, but they don't teach you how to develop a full application. It's very hard to find people that want to build an application, not because there aren't, because there is no simple way of communication. But yeah.
This would be a question for Alex. Could it be like a lack of just expertise? This is a new nascent technology and there's not enough people trained, qualified to train other people on how to be blockchain developers?
Yes.
Okay, but what about the fact, because I spoke to a couple individuals and I'm not super techie, so I'm not going to speak to this correctly, but I know that there's a lot of compromises with Solidity. There's only so much we can do, and apparently there's companies out there who are trying, so essentially what I was explaining is that Solidity is kind of like the basic, right? And there's companies out there who are trying to build better languages, programming languages, to help us do more, because we're very limited with what we can do. Is that correct? Or can you speak a little bit more about the following?
Okay, so what we are seeing right now is that we have to develop smart contracts or blockchains, we have specific languages. So we are seeing blockchains that are trying to build with normal language like PHP, JavaScript. So right now, it's very in early development. There are a lot of people working in so many solutions. So right now the problem I think it is like we need to choose 5 or 4 solutions and work everyone on that solution. But yeah, so right now for NERD Solidity is a very language that is only dedicated for smart contracts, and you cannot do more things about that. But we are seeing that blockchains technically they are changing their way to become more easier to the developer to know and develop.
All right, so the other question is regulations. Obviously, we talked about this quite a bit. So there's a lot of different, and also there's 2 different camps. There's the pro-regulation camp, and then there's the anarchist camp, I guess we can call it that. And also, a move from ICOs to security tokens. So what's your, I know there are 2 different questions, but so let's talk about regulation and how you think that's going to help or not help the space in general.
2 excellent, just really big questions that could, formulate an entire conference or even workshop that we have. So regulation, I have to cover that, for the news, and I think that one problem, I can speak in the United States, is there's a lot of it comes down to 2 things: KYC and AML, right? Know your customer, anti-money laundering. I think the biggest problem is AML. Although banks launder, get caught and fined for laundering way more money than the entire value of all cryptocurrencies, there's a big focus there because the bankers, the Rothschilds, the Clintons, they don't have access to this, right? And so they're going to attack it. And the regulations in the United States for being a money transmitter, there's 50 different states, meaning 50 different regulations. Recent studies that came out show that they're not designed for cryptocurrencies because maybe it made sense for the US dollar where you had to go to a physical place and pay your electric bill 50 years ago, but these are borderless currencies. So I think that, I think governments are in general slow, the bureaucracy is slow in any type of avenue, so being able to catch up with cryptocurrencies is going to be quite the challenge. But I want to be clear that cryptocurrencies can't be stopped, but regulations can slow down. I do think they can probably influence maybe which ICOs or cryptocurrencies have success based on the regulations they don't, they lay down or don't lay down.
Okay, I am more from there is need to be a little of regulation because right now we will see the last 2 years of the market a lot of ICOs that there were scams. Anyone knows what is a secure token offering? Can you raise your hand? Okay, so normally I will explain with example. When you an ICO, normally you buy a token with the promise that this token will run the network. Yes, I am correct. With secure token offering, it's more like a coin regulated, but it can be coin, it can be digital assets, you can tokenize shares, and I'm going to give you an example. Let's say I love Starbucks, okay? And I want to buy shares of Starbucks. They are trading publicly in the United States. Right now, if I want to buy shares of Starbucks, I have to pass a very complicated process, go to sites of the United States, pass a lot of documentation. But why not we tokenize the shares? So we put it, the people who have shares for Starbucks, 5 tokens, get a 10% of discount. What I want to mean with this, but with tokenization, you can have a lot of benefits. You open a new way where we can put it in houses, propriety, it can be digitalized for everything. And I think that STOs can bring a regulated market, not so much regulated, and we can avoid so many ICOs. Because right now, ICOs, there have been a lot of scams, there have been a lot of bad communication, say that blockchain is bad and technology is bad, and that's not true. The problem is people didn't have a little backup. So to become a compliant STO, you have to pass some regulators of the Sept that they will slow you down, but it can be you can have some protection instead of an ICO.
So, all right. So I'd like to, and I want to separate ICOs and security tokens. It's a huge space, right? But I'd say my take on regulation is that the same person that there's some ridiculous ICOs out there we just covered on Blockchain 2025. iHealth, vision's a problem. So it needs to be on the blockchain. There's not enough optometrists in the world. More people have eye problems every year. So iGlob.net, they're doing an ICO for $40 million. The problem with the SEC and regulation protecting us, it's I do think that you kind of, just like the person that always dates the wrong person to get advice and they keep going through the same cycle. This type of person that's going to invest in a ridiculous ICO, it doesn't matter because then they'll join something non-blockchain related like a multi-level marketing thing and get ripped off there. I think it's a deeper issue. But what you said about ICOs and security tokens, I think that's very interesting. I'd like to maybe, I think utility tokens and security tokens, some ICOs become security tokens. And basically, SEC is saying it's a stock, right? It's a security. And it's very important, I still think cash is we still haven't mastered that, right, by any means, and that's the killer app for currency. But assets in the world, only 30% of all assets in the world are cash. The other 70% are, non-cash assets. So I think the security tokens thing is huge. It's a huge thing. So shares of real estate. If you're a real estate developer in let's say South Barcelona and you're not sure if North Barcelona, obviously I don't know the city very well, is going to do well, you could maybe short a token that represents North Barcelona real estate while you build your condominiums in South Barcelona. But I do think ICOs, when they say utility, they mean it's not a stock. So Ethereum is not a security token. Sorry, it's a utility. It's not a security token because it represents computer processing power. Some of the we'll say Dropbox, Amazon S3 competitors, they're storage on a network. So the utility as a function is not just a share of a stock.
Well, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening today. If you haven't already, please write a review on iTunes and or Stitcher. If you like the episode, make sure to share it with your friends and don't be shy. Find us on Instagram, Facebook, or Facebook group or Telegram, That Crypto Hustle, and keep on representing. Bye, guys.